Hello everyone, my name is Notepad Anon, and I write games for fun. So, give me 1 second as I readjust my life here. Click, 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 click. Click. There we go. So, what are we working on today? We're going to continue working on Hearts of Darkness, our regular scheduled programming. We are also going to be working on the next expansion. I'm going to butcher this. Angelesius Demonios. Angels and Demons. What is Angels and Demons about? Well, Angels and Demons are about technically the Spanish Civil War between the Nationalists and the Republican governments. Give me 1 second. I gotta apply some stuff to my back to make sure that I don't crickety crack all the way back. There we go. There we are. Just gotta readjust my life here. So, let's get back to it. Let me just do a quick check to make sure everything is working the way it should. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. So I already got the boring stuff done of how we got here, as well as the setup here. And this is what we're going to be working on. These are all the rules we're going to be working on. We're not really going to be worrying about other factions, really. We're primarily going to be concerned about pretty much more rules to expand your personal civil war. Hello, cops. Cops or paramedics, I don't know which, but they're here now. Outside, I live next to a hospital, and so it happens. So, what's kind of the plans here? So, we have coalitions and divided interests, anarchy rebel factions, and the escalation of conflicts, third parties and other actors, and lend-lease and volunteer forces. Pretty much all of these are more rules for kind of the campaign map for factions and things like that. And while not especially delving down into the nittier-grittier aspects. So, we're going to be working on coalitions and divided interests. Effectively, what this is a group of band together to oppose another group, coalition. That's all the factions belonging to it, and all the factions belonging to it, working together and allied. Pop inspiration juice. Good stuff. So, one of the things to tune out with coalitions, how effectively I want this to work is your coalition may be composed of multiple groups. So, this is going to be we'll use the Nationalists, Republicans. And if we go, I'll just bring up, see, I've been working on this all day. Oh, it's so good. So if we go down here, for the Nationalists, we had the FETs, CETAs, the Army of Africa, Renovación Española, Requestes, /CT, and the Republicans had CNT, FAIs, UGTs, Catalonians, International Brigades, etc. So what does this mean? Well, what it means is, for example, let's say, kind of taking this all back, you are going to be playing a communist uprising. So you're going to join the Republicans effectively. So we'll say player faction right here. And you have another faction right down here, which are, let's say, a anarchist faction. Well, on the other side, you have a monarchist faction. And let's also give it a CETA faction. You and this anarchist faction are going to be friends. You may despise each other, but since you're part of the same coalition, you're still part of the Republicans in this case, you're going to be allied. You're going to be working together to oppose the Nationalists. On the flip side, however, you may still go against each other. You may dislike that anarchist faction immensely, because they don't support you and your ideas. So you can indirectly attack them and deal with them, but you can never not. Like, you're still allied with them. Worst case scenario for you is that you get kicked from your coalition. So let's say that happens. You attack the anarchist faction, you get kicked from the coalition. The Nationalists don't want to deal with you anymore. So you're now here. The Nationalists can attack you. The Republicans can attack you. You're independent. So you need to kind of stay within your specific coalition. And this also goes into the divided interest, as well as, if I go to, not that, anarchy rebel factions and escalation of conflict. Say, for example, your coalition. I'm going to apply this also to the broader Hearts of Darkness experience. Let's say your coalition is made up of about 5 different groups. And something happens. Something bad happens. And no one wants to work together anymore. What happens then? You break apart and you start wanting to kill each other. So your coalition effectively dissipates, and it's a free-for-all then. So you want to keep your coalition in order, but you also have to keep everyone's interests in mind, so the coalition doesn't, collapse in upon itself. And exist inside the coalition. A coalition. Creating a coalition. Keep in mind every faction's core politics, as well as interests. For example, the Republicans are far more likely to support those holding left-wing ideologies. However, the Nationalists despise them. Keeping the coalition together, it can be the key to victory when faced with overwhelming threats. Let's make sure, yep. Key to victory and gain a victory when faced with overwhelming threat. If the coalition is to dissolve, whether by having irrevocable, not irrevocable changes, uncompromisable politics, or the real threat being eliminated. All factions inside of the coalition become independent. A faction still maintains private relationships and reputations among the different coalition members, as well as international appeal and international support. Emperor POI, controlled by a coalition member, is considered to be a part of the coalition and will be spread out evenly across all faction members. For example, if the coalition controls 3 wealth POI, let me just double check to make sure it's 4. I want to make sure. I'm like 95% sure that's the case, but I'm also terrible when it comes to memorizing things. Uh, 12 wealth generated. Coalition members divide it among themselves. Actually, each member of the coalition has a different rank and participation depending on their contribution, size, and strength in the conflict. Coalition leader receives 50% of all POI goods. Point of interest production. Coalition members. Let's see. So 6. Then from the remaining amount, each coalition member receives, based on their size, how many POI are controlled by them personally. For actually an example, the Republican Front Republican Army. So we want to go down to the Republican. National Republican Army leader. CNT or POI. Catalonian Armed Forces, 3 POI. International Brigade, number 1, 2 POI. International Brigade, number 2, 1 POI. An example of 12 wealth to be distributed. The leader, 6 wealth. Two wealth. 1 wealth. 1 wealth. 1 wealth, 1 wealth. Actually, 1 wealth. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4. Distribute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. CNT and the Catalonian Armed Forces receive more as they control more POI than either of the international brigades. If there was 15 wealth to be actually 14 wealth to be distributed, the International Brigade number 1 would receive 1 additional wealth. Any excess amount of wealth goes straight to the leader. Any excess amount of wealth goes straight to the leader. Excess amount of POI production goes straight to the leader. On the other hand, if a member of the coalition is ever at a deficit, of resources, wealth, or any other valuables, or any other POI. They draw immediately from the leader of the coalitions. Leader of the coalition. So pretty much how this system works with coalitions and such, the idea is that you, a member of a coalition, are always encouraged to obviously get stuff because you want to have more POI. So you get the first run through of things. So for example, that 12 wealth to be distributed, you know your leader's going to immediately get 6 right off the bat. They're going to get quite a bit like that. There's nothing you can do about that. But if you're the first one, you're going to receive something. And then if there's another pass, you're going to receive something more. And if there's a third pass, well, you get a little bit more. However, if you can't make up if you are in a deficit, you don't have food, you don't have guns, you don't have weapons, you don't have food, you don't have guns, you don't have money to pay for something, you take it directly from the leader, the one who's receiving the lion's share of things. So you're just taking it directly from him. So you can get moments, and you can get some coalitions where I may only own 1 or 2 POI, but I'm just getting constant support from my faction members, effectively. Well, let me just double check, make sure I'm actually like live and stuff. Yeah. So you're always kind of encouraged yet not encouraged. Here, let's do a little bit of investigation on Twitch arenas. Let's see. Huh. Interesting. Does not actually appear. Well, if I am online, I am. If I'm not, I'm not. Oh, for all I know, Twitch banned my own a while ago. So, let's see, we got that. So, Anarchy, Rebel Factions, Escalation. So, we're going to go here. Hello, Hearts of Darkness working. Here's Fortunes. It looks like we actually got some. What are you looking at? Oh, you're just on the top. And we want to look at. So we're actually going to be adding some more of these. Any civil war will bring out a large number of extremist groups and individuals who are attempting to get their ideology into the government, whether by being part of a coalition or by seizing territory. As anarchy in a country escalates, more of these different kind of factions may emerge, forcing the characters, government, and other factions to adapt or die to the encroachment. Of new and dangerous ideologies. So, first off, we have our basic ethical insurgencies, practical insurgents, major factions, weak factions, strong factions, diplomatic factions. Yeah, these are our basic ones. However, we want the real weirdos. So if we go back to our preliminary notes, okay, practical insurgents. We'll just use ethical insurgencies. And we're going to do Anarchy 3. Pretty much the country has been in conflict for at least long enough to understand that the conflict's going to last a little while. And has subsequently gone... these ones are going to be a little bit more bonkers than you would normally find. So Anarchy 3, we want to update heading. Popular fronts. Prioritize offense. Attacks the government. And hostile factions. So they want to see cities, villages, then resources. People are fed up with the war and have risen up in revolt. Popular Front is a combination of all walks of life as they struggle against the government and the rebels trying to restore order. So we're going to lots of militia, poorly trained. Actually, here, poorly trained, poorly outfitted, vast quantities. Starts in a city. Nationalist movement. Actually, military coup d'etat. Military coup. A series of officers and series of officers have made the decision that the government failing and cannot protect the people properly. They have risen up and seized a major location. Seize a major location to assist. Prioritize defense. Tax the government and any unethical or weak factions. Seize villages. Then they will focus on tactical points. Actually, no, they want to seize tactical points. Seize cultural points. Tactical points, cultural points, resources, villages. Decently sized, heavily equipped, and and vast quantities of soldiers. Oof. I should turn the light on. Heavily equipped, more and well led. Military coup. What is it? Self-defense pact. A group of individuals seized a POI and are attempting to keep it safe from opposition and exterior forces. They are not necessarily hostile, but they will defend their charges to the death. Prioritize defense. Does not attack anyone, but will heavily defend any POI they do seize. Defend initial. Starts at tactical points or city. Defend initial POI. Will seize nearby POI if able to, but never more than one away. Moderate. Either very large or very few, or very large, either sizable or small force of well-trained individuals, primarily militia. They will be prepared and will dig in. Start at a village resource point. So now we've gotten that, we have to go to Anarchy. Anarchy 5. Now I'm going to turn on my light. It's getting too dark. I have made a tragic mistake. I bought some really cheap cookies. I've been munching on those. They're like $1.30. I'm like, I gotta get these. They're my favorite. Terrorist organization. Fringe group dedicated to a very radical ideology. These individuals will stop at nothing to succeed. Their singular goal, even if it means committing untold atrocities. Prioritizes offense, attacks everyone equally, but focuses on exposed or weak factions. Will migrate POI if they are warned that they will lose something. They will either pillage or destroy it. They will lose. Force is often quite small, but mobile and decently trained. Will actively attempt to recruit more but at a resource point or cultural point. What are some other crazy Anarchy 5 stuff? So Anarchy 3 is like, okay, the war has escalated at this point. We know we're not going to make it out of here, unscathed. We may as well, attempt to fight tooth and nail until we can win. Anarchy 5 is when things are like, okay, we clearly know some things have gone wrong and the government is starting to collapse. So, I know, Dogs of War. Either mercenaries who haven't been paid, or simply bandits making do. These individuals care little for the ongoing war conflict, but will actively fight on the behalf of anyone who pays them. Prioritizes defense, offense when paid off. Attacks no one, but if paid, they will focus fire on a specific target. Has a headquarters, but can migrate it. If necessary. Will turn over any seized POI. to their employer. Force is well trained, is small, but are usually heavily equipped. Starts at a tactical point, resource point, or wealth point. Literally just mercenaries you can hire. It's like, yeah, we'll pay you off, please. Or some other... Anarchy 7. 3, so the last one would be 9. Anarchy 7 has clearly... The government is about to collapse. We are now... Everyone's kind of struggling to figure out what the hell is going on next. And we're going to do Liberation Front. For too long, these people have been under the heel of the government. No longer. They will break free, whether or not any other faction agrees with them. Prioritizes offense until all native POI are seized, then defense. Attacks whoever is holding their core POIs. Home base will... Oh. Well prioritize. Will seize villages, resource points, cities, wealth points. Actually, I should put, we'll seize cultural points first, then villages, then resource points, then cities, then wealth points. Like they don't want to focus on with the wealth right away. That's going to be their kind of big thing. Like everything else is kind of open for interpretation. Let me just... I need to order a cloth mask, because apparently everything is now on fire. Oofa. Oofa. What are some other strange... Oh. A wealthy or powerful individual has personally bankrolled a large number of soldiers to fight on their behalf. They are the best of the best, and the individual is absolutely rolling in money. Prioritizes offense or defense depending on the benefactor. Attacks whoever the benefactor wishes. Let's see, actually, we need to... Force is semi-professional with semi-professional with infantry mixed with militia actively. Starts at a village or city in their native POI area. At the center of their native POI area, we'll seize POI on the whims of their benefactor. Force is almost entirely professional and is well equipped. Starts at a resource, wealth, or village point, POI. Now we go on to Anarchy 9. The country is like collapsed at this point. Like everyone knows, like it's madness. Nobody is gonna win. Monarchists. Long live the ruler. By divine intervention, they will guide us to the ends of the world and strike down the evil that inhabits it. Prioritizes offense and tries to seize the country. Attacks whoever is a whole. Attacks anyone. Attacks everyone. Equally, will resort to diplomacy. These will seize villages, resource points, cities, cultural points, and finally tactical points. Force is mostly professional, but armed rabble and militia are mixed throughout. Starts at a village or if you're a monarch or city, village or city. Government in exile. Long last, a large number of soldiers and hopefuls set back down on native soil. They seek to reconquer their original lands and seize what was taken from them. Prioritizes offense against the government. Attacks the government primarily, but will crush rebel faction if necessary. We'll seize any nearby POI with impunity. Force is almost entirely professional and well equipped. Starts at the edge of the... Starts at any edge POI in the region. At any edge of the border POI in the region. The occult. Vast mysteries and secret societies come together finally and reveal themselves to the greater world as a cult attempts to seize the government with fanatical followers. Prioritizes offense, attacks anyone who will not follow them, will seize any nearby POI with emphasis on villages and cities. Force is mostly civilian in training, but fanatical in morale. Starts in a village POI or a cultural point. What are some other weird? What are some other strange and wonderful? Oh, radical anarchists. These individuals believe in no government, no society, and simply being left alone. They will fight tooth and nail to maintain their anarchist ideals. Prioritizes offense, attacks weak factions or factions who are exposed. Will seize villages, then wealth points, then resource points. But will pillage anything. Will pillage anything they can't hold. Force is mostly non-professional, but numerous. Well equipped. Oh, I know what I have to add. Starts in a village or resource point. And cap. Anarcho-capitalists. Anarcho-capitalists. Free market isn't free. Sometimes, what's the best way to describe anarcho-capitalism? Centralized state. Okay, there we go. political. Anything goes. Prioritize is offense or defense. Tax all factions with no care. Will get angry if you violate their NAP. Asks for NAP with non-aggression. Non-aggression pacts with any and all factions. If denied, they will attack. We'll seize wealth points, resource points, then try to sell you the resources back. Resources at a premium. Force is entirely professional, mixed with elite units they pay for out of elite units. Mercenaries starts in any POI. What are some other weird factions I can think of at the top of my head? Let's see, we have monarchists already, we have ANCAPs, and we have legitimate anarchists. We have cults. There's another good one out there. I know there is. I can't think of it at the top of my head. Let's see, we have the warriors. Oh, goodness gracious me. Yawning. You know, I think this will work. We literally added anarcho-capitalism. Do we want to power through and try to wrap everything up tonight? With Angelus Demios. Yeah, you know what? Screw it, let's try it. Mercenaries, soldiers, fortune, garrisons, and the police force all play a vital role in running an organized war. When setting up the campaign zone, determine what third parties are involved, who they are going to initially support. As the war continues, these neutral parties may be influenced, bought off, or simply eliminated by the other major factions. Their effects continue as long as the faction controlling them has them under control, be it by contract, wealth, resources, or simply being owned by them. Example, third parties. The police force. National Police Force is a government agency tasked with protecting the people of the nation against criminal threats and problems. As the Civil War drags on, many police officers find themselves drafted into the conflict. But many more are forced to stay behind to watch the home front. Being allied with the police force in a city gives the faction +1 legitimacy. Mercenary company. A small mercenary band has been squatting in the country for a while, looking for bidders, takers on their various supplies, resources, and experience. Recruiting them gives the faction a professional company of soldiers with good equipment and even better vehicles. The corporation. A corporate investor is willing and able to assist whoever can supply it with the valuable goods of the country. All they request is that you protect their assets, and they'll, of course, protect you. And then they will, of course, pay you. The faction receives +4 wealth for allying with the corporation. With a corporation. Let's see, what are some other ones? Mercenary companies, corpse. No, that's yeah, actually. What are some good, pretty much, what effectively these are like heavily minor factions. So you may have your major factions, such as the government, your faction, some of the ones I just listed above, and then these are kind of like the minor factions underneath them almost. And these are just things who are individuals who are just around, and they play a part, but they're not a major part. And, kind of allying with them is important. But if you can just choose to ignore them if you want. Might be bad because your enemies might get them, but you can. What's some? So that. Let's see. What's some good ideas I'm thinking of? I can think of a good idea right now. Trying to think of like main kind of bigger factions. I can see it in my head what they would be. Because it's something like the Army of Africa. That's a third party that the nationalist force, quote unquote, are recruiting. That they are effectively, by virtue of having Francisco Franco on their side, they have the Army of Africa. If Franco were to die during that time, the Army of Africa wouldn't really have a good reason to continue fighting and probably go home. Like, yeah, they would be, oh, you're accused of fighting for the Nationalists, we hate you. But they would be like, well, we were following Franco more than anything, rather than anyone else. So that's what I kind of see here. Would be a good example. Oh, I know. This organization has announced their formal support of this organization holds the hearts and minds of the citizenry as well as the soldiers with the soldiers as long as the major religious organization supports the faction, they gain +1 morale. And yep, they gain +1 morale. On a side note, third parties and dramatis personae. Overall, third parties and dramatis personae both fill the same niche of smaller factions that assist the player's faction. Now, a third party, however, is larger and has more of a presence compared to an individual dramatis personae. It does, as it is an organization rather than an individual, rather than a single person. It also means they are far harder to eliminate overall. Well, and also have larger reaching effects. Mercenary company. as the faction continues to pay them off. Both have the same niche of small factors as the player's faction. Alright. Lend, lease, and volunteer forces. Alright, so Spanish Civil War is considered by many to be the dress rehearsal of World War II, with Axis equipment being used extensively by the Nationalists, and the Soviets actively giving support to the Nationalists. The Nationalists, not the Nationalists, the Republicans, along with a large amount of volunteer corps in the Republican ranks to represent the system of lend-leasing, volunteer forces. Lend-leasing and volunteer forces. Lend-leasing. An outside faction may choose to give supplies, resources, equipment, or wealth to the player's faction, to a faction for fulfilling specific goals or policies. As long as the faction in question continues to abide by their contract with the leaser, the lender, they will have access to the benefits benefits they are providing. Looks like we actually have a second person in here. Oh wow, you're all the way down there now. Now will they comment on the thread? Now that's the real Ufatronics Rex there moment. I'll have access to the benefits they are providing. Resources, equipment, and wealth. These contracts may be as simple as continuing the fight to as complex as holding a certain number of POIs in a region to allow the lender to access tools or resources. The lender may pull out of the contract whenever they want to. But if the contract is ever broken by the faction, they lose the benefit. Example and lease. Example and lease. Germans are offering a nationalist force better equipment plus one soft attack across the board for all FUs and two artillery pieces, towed artillery to be employed by the faction in exchange for having them hold a POI in northern Spain to protect shipments of materials. Into the country. Volunteer forces. A volunteer force is a number of soldiers who have dedicated themselves to your cause. They require resources to be fed, as well as given bullets. However, they are soldiers. They are soldiers and are more than willing to assist in conflicts. However, a volunteer force will never integrate with a larger force. They will always have their own own officer, and they will always have their own office. Secondly, volunteer forces may be indirect assistance. These can include air cover, air bombardment, naval assistance, or naval assistance. As long as the faction maintains positive relations with the volunteer forces' home country or allies, they will remain. If the faction ever falls below 0 in reputation, the volunteers will depart. The next season. then we're done. Gonna add some pictures in between things, but overall we've got all the things we need to really do for the Spanish Civil War. You don't want to do that. 13 pages. How big is this? It's not very big, about 2,500 words overall. Overall, this one wasn't supposed to be like super massive at all, because it's mostly just about expanding out some things. Majority of things will get added into the main rulebook. Probably not like the anarchy rebel factions, but like third parties, Lend-Lease, and yeah, third parties and Lend-Lease definitely will. I don't know if the coalition will either, because the coalition's kind of a bizarro one, but I don't know. So what does tomorrow hold for us? What are we doing on the next time? So if we go down to Spanish Civil War, we're going to go all this. We're going to hit done. Well, we're going to start working on the Second American Civil War, Land of the Free. And what I plan on doing here, just for the sake of reference, the expanded POI system is I'm going to probably expand tactical and cultural points a little bit, add things like universities and like railroad lines, river crossings, kind of more important tactical decision making when it comes to that, and like cultural points. It's like holding, for example, the top of my head, like in Idaho, holding one of the major, like holding Suquamish Pass is a major deal for Idaho. And if you want to get in, or if you want to go to Washington at all, like you got to hold Suquamish Pass. That would be a tactical point, and it would be a roadway. So it's kind of breaking down tactical points a little bit, as well as cultural points. And each of them give something slightly different in addition to their base amount. As well as as a little bit of the wealth, breaking down the wealth systems into effectively paper currency, as well as goods. Because you can, as of right now, like a wealth point in Africa could be like an oil well. It's a diamond mine. It's a thing that you're converting into wealth. Like it's not. It's kind of abstract in that. But this would be like, hey, I'm holding a diamond mine. Well, obviously, I need to sell those diamonds somewhere. You know, it's raw resources. It's raw wealth. It's not actually wealth at this point. It's just things. It's a rock. But once I transfer it over, I have to sell it, and then I get money, and that's kind of how it works. So you have your paper as well as your physical. So having $5,000 is a lot different than having $5,000 in diamonds. That's just an example. So the legitimacy system is I'm going to actually take out legitimacy for this one, and this is going to be kind of an optional thing. But the idea is that you need a sponsor for your rebellion. Pretty much, who are you backing in addition to who's backing you. And the second part to that will be kind of building a government. After the war, after you win, after you succeed in your endeavor, your mission, what does the government look like? Hey, we want to overthrow the government. All right, what do you want to replace it with? Or, hey, after we win, I'm going to become president. All right, you want to become president? How's that going to work? Or, things like that. Or I might just go down the pure like sponsorship route. Like, who's actually sponsoring you? Are you in this completely alone? Do you have, does a government in exile sponsor you? Or are you kind of sponsored by the people? It's kind of something like that. And then finally, combined arms warfare. Pretty much that's going to be a couple more new fighting units, as well as expanded sense of naval warfare, as well as air warfare. Yeah, that's what I'm like. They're numbers. But yeah, and air warfare with effectively two different. Effectively, it's either going to be kind of more of an abstract version for it, or it's going to be like, hey, you're in the air now. as a large large scale warfare in the air. Now you're going to be fighting, or hey, you're in the water. Naval units can move A to B or C to D, and as well as expanding a little bit more on the vehicles there. I might add some more stuff like armor cores and like, hey, are you a more of a mobile infantry division? Are you a mechanized? Are you motorized? Things like that, because I think that might be fun. I may not do that. I don't know. But after that, we are actually going to be done with Hearts of Darkness. It's been a ride. It's definitely been a fucking ride, but we're going to wrap things up. We're going to move on to our next project, which I still don't know what it's going to be, but c'est la vie. Well, everyone, thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your night. Goodbye.